Hey, women of welcome. Good afternoon, wherever you are. Happy Advent. Merry Christmas. We are going to spend a couple of weeks introducing you to some wonderful partners who are serving migrants and vulnerable families down across the borderlands in California and Texas. And so there are a lot of needs down at the border right now. There are thousands of vulnerable families coming from Venezuela and from Haiti and from Central and South America. And it's just, there's a lot going on at the border. And we are going to talk with a trusted friend of ours down at the border, Border Perspectives. And then we're going to give you all the links and all the things. So if you want to support Border Perspectives and what they're doing, then we'll get you those links.
Bree,
this is Jen.
You?
Hi, Jen.
I'm good.
I'm good.
It's good to it's good to put a face to the voice and the text.
Yes, we are Sarah and I. Oh, let's see, when was this? Maybe it was a year ago. We flew into McAllen. We were with some good friends of ours in El Paso, of our frontiers, and we decided, we'd been seeing what Border Perspectives were doing, and we never, promote anything unless we've kind of gone and figured people out and whatnot. And can I just tell you, ladies, Border Perspectives, Sarah and I flew to McAllen, Texas, and we met with Jenn Moya, who's Jen's brother, and the work that this family is doing and has been doing for generations is incredible down on the border. And so at Christmas time, I mean, like any other time, our community is just so amazing in asking, what can I do to help? Where's a link? What can I do? How can I get involved? And so this Christmas, every week, in our Advent weeks, we're going to highlight a ministry that is meeting people at the border.
Yeah,
and so
thank
Jen,
you for having us.
Exciting
time to talk and discuss things.
Yes, no joke. Okay. So tell me a little bit, just so for people who aren't familiar with Border Perspectives, if you're not, please go follow them. But tell us just a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so I am the regional coordinator for Border Perspective. Basically, I work in the field. I help lead service learning trips. I also am the liaison between many of our partners here in South Texas. And I also support the ongoing work of the local church that Border Perspective partners with. So Border Perspective is a really, not to be biased because he's my brother, but we really do.
Like him, so
but it's a really great organization that focuses a lot on educational service learning trips. And so they partner with local organizations that are already doing the work here in border towns. And they serve, that are already serving migrant families in the region. And we use various ministry tools and biblical resources to help mostly the American church understand the reality and the complexity of immigration reform. So alongside that, through biblical resources, we partner with the local church that's already also doing the work here. We provide immersive experiences, immersive service learning opportunities, and we want to challenge the perspective of the American church on how the lives of immigrants that are already living here and those that are coming or that are newly here to the United States, what that looks like for these people, what that looks like for people living on the border, because there has been, as many of you might know, so many different opinions of South Texas, specifically McAllen.
Yes. And I mean, our community is very interested and involved in kind of deciphering the headlines. And the thing that I wanted to talk with Jen about today, before she shares with us how we can help and how we can support them, and hopefully we can support a lot of what's on their Amazon wish list that they have as they continue. It's not just a Christmas thing. I mean, all year round, they are taking in vulnerable families. And so we'll get to that in a second. One of the things I wanted to ask was, in the media, there's always lots of images and video of just chaos at the border. Tell us a little bit about the McAllen, Texas area. Do you feel, who are you seeing coming to the border? And in your opinion, after all the years your family's been doing work there, just, is it chaos or is it just a constant service and ministry that you have to keep up with?
So
tell us a little bit about
and
McAllen.
I'll start with this, that it's really impossible to get a full picture of McAllen unless you come visit or you experience McAllen yourself. Unlike many opinions that I've heard and perspectives of McAllen, people are thinking that when they come to McAllen, they're in danger. People are thinking that our roads and our streets are just surrounded by crime and it's unsafe and
cartels.
It's really not like that at all. We have amazing places here. We have an H-E-B. I don't know if you guys know what an H-E-B is, but it's an amazing Mexican food store. We have any restaurant that you think about, Cracker Barrel and all those really good places. So we're not off the grid as many people think that we are, and it's really interesting to see when new faces come and visit us. They're like, oh, you guys are just living life here. It's like, yeah, we're living life here. It looks a little different because of the situation. McAllen sits right alongside the Texas and Mexico border. And so it borders several different towns in Mexico that have been in the media quite a lot, which is Matamoros, Mexico, and then Reynosa, Mexico as well. And so for the past, 6 years or so, it's faced a lot of political tension. It started, as we all know, through the separation of family, the migrant camps along the Mexican border, and really the most impactful thing I think about the McAllen area or the South Texas region is the way that the Rio Grande sits. So I'll say this: many people think that the Rio Grande River is right here, and the wall is just right alongside the river, and that actually is not like that at all. There's sometimes miles between the river and the actual wall. There's people living within this part of region that there's nothing there, and so it's really not at all what people might think it is. Even though we are going through this situation, there's a lot of service opportunity, I will say, because on a daily basis, we're seeing through our partner agencies, we're seeing possibly on a monthly basis 10 to 15,000 asylum seekers coming in. And so the local partners that we partner with are always looking for people that can be hands-on, that can welcome individuals that are coming. And so more than anything, Bree, there's a lot of service that needs to be done here.
Right. I mean, if you just think about that, 15,000 vulnerable families, vulnerable people looking for a new life. And we talk about this a lot just at Women of Welcome, just about how the vast majority, not all, but the vast majority of people who are coming and approaching the border are doing so looking for the Border Patrol. They want to share their story. They want it to be vetted. They don't want to live in the shadows anymore. They want to come into a place of freedom. And so it's one of those things where the chaos that you see at the border is really desperate families, not necessarily a chaos of crime and violence. Now, we know that happens to a lot of these migrants, and they are taking advantage of it because they are so vulnerable. So when they arrive at the doorstep of the U.S., it is a matter of how do we want to show welcome as the world's strongest, arguably strongest nation. How do we show welcome? And as Christians, how should we be advocating to show Christ-like welcome to those who are showing up at our border? So tell us, who is showing up at the border right now that you have been seeing?
So we're seeing a lot of different nationalities, obviously. We're seeing Guatemalans, Hondurans, we're seeing Haitians, we're seeing Cubans, we're seeing really anybody from South Central America and then the Caribbean. In the last couple of months, I would say in October, since the new the new, what is it called? The new act for Venezuelans. Since that went into place, we have not seen many Venezuelans come through because now they have to have a sponsor in order to seek asylum. But before that, we were seeing a lot of Venezuelans come through. I'll share a really heart-wrenching story that I was a part of just a couple weeks ago while I was serving in Brownsville, and I was seeing the influx of people that were coming in. So this particular partner that we partner with, they provide hygiene kits that we also help provide, and they serve a warm to-go meal for them. And so imagine I don't know, a 10 by 10 room. That's the small room that they have. There's about 100 people coming in, lining up, and they're all wearing this sort of bracelet. And this bracelet on them has a barcode that has been given to them through from the migration processing center. They have their name, they have where they come from, and you see all of them wearing this bracelet. And so part of our job as our volunteers is to grab some scissors and cut these bracelets off them, because they no longer need them, because they are already legally here. They're legally processed. The relief in the faces of these individuals when you cut this band off, it's like a newfound freedom. It was really hard. It was really heartwarming, but also really heart-wrenching and really challenging, because just this one piece of like band, what the significance that has. And when you ripped it off, you could just see them sigh very heavily. And you would just say, hey, you're here. Mm-hmm. Like, you've made it through. This journey that you just walked through, this really tough and challenging process that you have been a part of, it's all paid off and you're here. And like, you're home. Because like you said, many individuals are just looking for a new hope. Often I tell people that ask me, why are people coming? I said, put yourself in their position. Do you think that you want to leave your family behind? Do you think that you want to leave your home? Do you think that you want to leave your land? Do you think that you want to leave your animals at home when you've already had a life made in these countries? It's different, I said, when you're being pushed out, when you are being persecuted, when there is no other hope for you there, when your own people, when your own government isn't doing anything for you. It's really hard. It's really challenging.
Yeah. Well, and just even think about being processed. You know, you get to the US and there are different ways that different border sectors and the personnel there are handling and processing migrants. So it's not necessarily a uniform way that people are doing it across different border sectors. But to have a wristband like that has your information, but then it's just like an indicator that you're a number. It's like kind of like you're part of the cattle call, you know, it's like, and to have that kind of identifying mark taken off of you. We talk about this a lot when we go on our own immersion trips as well, just about how there are other indicators that make you vulnerable, that make you feel less than a human being who's worthy of affirmed dignity and respect. And, you know, as simple as shoelaces that are taken away from you when you're in detention centers, so that when you're expelled or deported or you're walking around a new city, people know that you've been in detention. They know that you're not from around here, and it just makes you more vulnerable. And so just these things, just thinking about these things just make me really emotional, because people are not just a number. They're a story and they are an image bearer. And so this is why I just love that your family has been showing up. The Moya family has been showing up for generations in this area, in this region. And the work that you do is just so beautiful. Tell me, what is the most challenging aspect of the work that you do? I mean, here, are you, I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know. Married
I'm
or
single.
I have no clue. Okay. I just wonder, like, you know, from your perspective, working down and serving people like this, what is it like for you in your own perspective? And what is the most challenging thing for you when you encounter these families?
The work itself is not challenging at all, because My parents,
Oh my
since we were
gosh.
young, Bree, and my parents are pastors here in South Texas, and they lead an amazing church that is 100% of their members are immigrants to the U.S. And so since we were small, we were taught that serving is what we do, that we were here to serve and not to be served. And so the serving part is not as challenging. The seeing people coming in with these really horrible stories of how they were treated, seeing and hearing people's like journey is challenging. But I'll say that there's probably 4 things that I have been challenged with as I'm seeing this. One is I don't have all the answers. I wish, and everybody always asks me, what would you do different? And I said, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I don't know how to do, how to make immigration reform better. But I know that I'm involved. I know that I want to be involved. I know that I want to be an advocate for it. I think there's a lack of education, particularly on South Texas, from some people, and that makes it really challenging for me. There's misinformation being presented in the media and from politicians that make my job really challenging. There is a whole lot of ignorance and arrogance from many people about just what's actually happening. And there's divisiveness that's being caused through that. And then for our Christian brothers and sisters, there's a lack of biblical knowledge. And that's probably been the most challenging thing. There's a lack of biblical knowledge and compassion towards people that are being processed in a legal form to be here. It's difficult to understand. It's difficult to sometimes have those conversations and just keep at peace and keep kind of like my cool about it, because being a part of this community, being a part of the ministry down here, I just don't see how you can't get involved, you know? It's hard.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I think frightens people sometimes or makes them feel a lack of compassion is that there's just a continual need. It's just constant, you know, there's just so many families that are coming. And we've addressed that at Women of Welcome, just like, you know, and saying what we say. But what would you say to someone who would say, yeah, but people just keep coming?
I say that for a long time. Americans went out to seek to serve. They went out to Central America, they went out to Europe, they went out to the Middle East, right? And now all of the nations are coming to us. Bree, all of the nations are at our doorstep. And we're closing our hearts, and we're guarding our nation. And I'm not saying let's open borders, because no, that's not what we're saying.
Oh, I know. Very hard for people to realize.
We're definitely not advocating for open borders here. But we are advocating for human dignity. We're advocating for compassion for individuals. And so when I hear my own brothers and sisters in Christ being ugly or being arrogant or being ignorant about the situation, I'm just like, come on down. Come on down, please.
Come on down.
My room is open. I'll host you. I'll host you. I just want you to be a part of it. And I think there's a lot of fear that people sometimes don't like to be challenged. They don't like it. They have an opinion, they have a perspective, and because it's been like that for 30, 50 years, they're like, nope, there's nothing else. Until you are enlightened and you see, oh, maybe there is something else. I heard this one guy say, he was 65 years old a couple months ago. He said, you know, I'm never going to retire, because in the work of the Lord, there's never a time to stop working. So we will continue to see people coming. We will not only see them coming from Central and South America, but we will see them coming from other different places as well. And there's always going to be a need to serve.
Always. I mean, and I don't think, in the life of a Christian, we're not, nowhere does the Bible talk about like sitting back and like you said, and retiring from the
Right.
work of serving others.
Yeah.
And what an amazing thing that your
Thank you.
family has continued to do. You guys are a living testimony of that. It's just so beautiful. And we continue to say the same thing in the same heart and mind as you, is that the nations are at our doorstep. And for decades and decades, we have been sending and sending and sending. And now we have been
Yes.
begging for revival in this country. We've been begging for revival for the nations and for America. And yet, what if migrants coming from around the world are the revival? What if they are the ones that stir our hearts and our motivations and our minds back to Christ? And that to me is super challenging to think
It
about.
really is.
But also
I was
so
talking
good.
to a pastor that we hosted. He's actually from the Mexico border, right? He's from a Mexican border town. He came in and he's like, I just want to know what you guys are doing. So we invited him to come alongside us. And I said, Pastor, like, what is your opinion? You're from over there. You're seeing both sides. Like, what is your opinion? And I loved what he said. He said, you know what, Jen? If they don't find Christ across the border in Central America or South America, perhaps God can use this so that they can find Christ here. And we forget, Bree, that ultimately we're supposed to be saving souls, right? We're supposed to be gaining people for the kingdom of God, and not being divisive and not being separate and not being ignorant to what's happening. And so in the work that we do through Border Perspective, through the local church, and through some of the local partners that allow us to speak the gospel and speak Christ into people's life, that's what we want to do. If somebody is in need of spiritual support, or if nobody has ever talked to them about a living Christ, then that's what we want to do. Despite their situation, despite where they come from, despite what they've done, we want to provide them.
Beautiful. Jenn, this is the thing everyone wants to know. This is the last question. It's always, how can I help? What can I do? And we do have like an Amazon wish link that we're going to post. But for those not living in the Borderlands area and they want to help, what is like the most important thing that you think that you could say?
I would say two things. First, educate yourself on what's happening on South Texas. Every border is different, right? So here in South Texas, we border with Reynosa and Matamoros. El Paso borders to Tijuana. Laredo borders to Nuevo Laredo. So there's a lot of things happening around the border. Educate yourself, form your own opinions, your own beliefs that are based on the knowledge that you have educated yourself on. Secondly, there are many different organizations already doing the work, like BP and the local church is doing here. Partner with them. Find them online. Border Perspective has an online website, borderperspective.com, where you can go and be a part of the ministry that's already helping advocate for these asylum seekers, for these immigrant families that are in our back door. There's a lot of people that want to come and they kind of want to reinvent the wheel, but there's already people doing the work. And the cool thing is that these people are here year round. They're not just coming in. They live and breathe.
And
I'm a huge example of that. It's an ongoing thing. It's a daily thing in our lives. So there's a lot of opportunities with a lot of different organizations. I mean, the list is extensive. But do that. Partner with people that are already doing stuff. And like you said, we have an Amazon wish list that is centered currently through for like this sort of winter season. And every season it's changing because there's different needs. And then we also have a Peacemakers Fund that if you'd like to donate financial support, then you can help us just support our vision, our ministry, to serve families, leaders, and equipped the leaders that we have here. Yes.
So we're going to put all this in the comments. Jen, when I get this posted right after we're done, I'd like you to put some of those links in there, but then I'm also going to post the Amazon link as well in our stories. So if you're wondering what's on the Amazon link, it's probably a little bit of what you would expect and some that you wouldn't expect. So we talked a little bit about some of the things that like make migrants more vulnerable, things like shoelaces or not having belts on their clothes, or so we've got things that keep them warm as far as like blankets and hoodies and you know, bags and space heaters, shoelaces. There's also just like the real tangible things like gloves and mittens and crayons and books for kids and shopping bags or backpacks. So all of the things that can communicate you are welcome here. You are important. You are valued. We understand that your journey has been hard. Here is something as small as that is that can bring warmth and dignity and affirm your dignity and maybe bring a little bit of joy and a little bit of Christ's love as they welcome. So Jenn, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for telling us what you're doing and all that Border Perspectives is doing. So follow Border Perspectives. Jenn's going to put links in the comments, follow on the stories, and we're going to put the Amazon link so that you can help Border Perspectives keep serving vulnerable families along the border, especially during these cold winter months.
Thank you, Bree.
So
thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much, Jenn. I appreciate you.